Imagine for a moment a life where fear no longer dictates your choices, a life where challenges are met with calm clarity, and you possess an unwavering confidence to face anything that comes your way. Sounds like a dream, doesn't it? But here's the truth. Fear is a constant companion for all of us. It sneaks into our thoughts, keeps us awake at night, and often holds us back from living the life we truly deserve. Now, what if I told you this? The ancient teachings of Buddhism, a philosophy that has guided millions toward inner peace for over 2,500 years, hold profound wisdom to help you break free from fear's grip. These teachings are more than just philosophy. They are practical tools, designed to help you reshape your mindset, build inner strength, and reclaim the courage you already possess. In today's journey, we will explore 6 transformative Buddhist lessons that will help you rise above fear, embrace life with courage, and push beyond your limitations. But that's not all. Stay with us until the end, because there's a bonus insight waiting for you, one that could completely shift the way you view fear and unlock a deeper sense of freedom. If you're ready to discover the tools to master your fears and live a life of courage and peace, let's dive in together. Your journey begins now. Lesson 1. Understanding the nature of fear. Let me take you on a journey back to ancient India. The Buddha was walking through a quiet forest with his disciples. As they traveled, they met a villager trembling in fear. The villager explained that earlier on his path, he had encountered a deadly serpent. Its sharp eyes and poised fangs had left him frozen with terror. He turned back and had been too afraid to continue his journey ever since. The Buddha listened patiently and then spoke with a gentle smile. "Fear," he said, "is much like a serpent. It appears real and dangerous, but often it is just an illusion." He invited the villager and the disciples to return to the path together. As they approached the spot, they found what looked like the serpent, but as they moved closer, they saw it wasn't alive at all. It was simply a thick root coiled on the ground. The play of shadows in the dim light had created the illusion of danger. The Buddha turned to his followers and said, "See how easily our minds are deceived. Most of what we fear is like this serpent, an illusion born from ignorance." This story teaches a timeless truth. Fear is often not as real as it seems. It is created by our own minds. And once we shine the light of awareness on it, fear begins to dissolve. But where does fear come from? In Buddhism, fear arises from 2 main roots: ignorance and attachment. Let's begin with ignorance. This is what Buddhists call avidya, the darkness of the mind. When we don't understand the true nature of reality, fear thrives. Think of how shadows in a dark room can make an ordinary object seem threatening. In the same way, ignorance magnifies the unknown and fills it with imagined threats. The Buddha taught that wisdom is the key to dispelling this darkness. By understanding that life is impermanent, interconnected, and ever-changing, fear loses its grip on us. The second root of fear is attachment. This is clinging to things we believe define our happiness. Imagine holding a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. In life, we cling to relationships, possessions, and outcomes, fearing their loss. But clinging only deepens our anxiety, because nothing in life is permanent. The Buddha showed us that true freedom comes from learning to let go, not in a way that means we stop caring, but in a way that helps us appreciate life without fear of losing it. Fear also grows in cycles. It begins with perception, when a thought or image signals danger. This is followed by a reaction. Our body responds instinctively with a racing heart and shallow breaths. Finally, avoidance reinforces the fear. It makes it feel more real and harder to confront next time. The Buddha compared this cycle to feeding a fire. The more you fuel it, the stronger it burns. Breaking this cycle starts with awareness. So, how do we transform fear? The Buddha taught us several tools. First, we need to shine the light of awareness on our fears. When fear arises, ask yourself, is this fear real? Or is it something my mind has created? Often, just pausing to question your fear can weaken its hold on you. Second, practice mindfulness. Fear cannot exist in the present moment. It lives in regrets about the past or worries about the future. When you focus on your breath or the sensations around you, fear begins to fade. Third, remember that fear is impermanent. Like waves on the ocean, emotions rise and fall. They do not define you. When you feel fear, remind yourself, this too shall pass. Finally, treat fear as a teacher. Ask yourself, what is this fear trying to show me about myself? By approaching it with curiosity and self-compassion, you can transform fear into a stepping stone for growth. So, as we reflect on this lesson, remember the story of the serpent. When fear arises, pause and look closely. What seems terrifying at first might just be a shadow, a creation of your mind. And when you see it for what it truly is, you'll realize that fear doesn't have to control you. Let's move forward together and explore even more powerful teachings from the Buddha, teachings to help you overcome fear and embrace life with courage. Lesson 2. Embracing Impermanence. Let me ask you something. Have you ever held on to something so tightly? A relationship, a job, or even a version of yourself, only to feel anxious when it started to slip away? This feeling of fear, this resistance to change, it is deeply human, but as the Buddha taught, it stems from a misunderstanding of life itself. Everything in life is impermanent. To help us understand this truth, let's look at one of the Buddha's most profound teachings. One day, a grieving mother came to him. She was carrying the lifeless body of her child. In her pain, she begged the Buddha to bring her son back to life. Instead of dismissing her, the Buddha gave her a task. He told her, "Find me a mustard seed from a household that has never experienced death, and I will help you." The woman eagerly began her search. She went door to door, but at each house, she was met with stories of loss. Parents, children, friends, all loved ones who had passed. Slowly, she came to realize that death and loss were not unique to her. They were a universal part of life. She returned to the Buddha, not with a mustard seed, but with a new understanding. She gently laid her son to rest, her heart now filled with peace and acceptance. This story carries a powerful message. Everything we experience, joy, pain, success, failure, is temporary. While this might sound daunting at first, the Buddha taught us that it's actually the key to freedom. When we fight against the reality of impermanence, we suffer, but when we embrace it, we begin to experience life fully, without fear of loss. You might wonder, why do we fear change so much? The answer lies in our search for stability. We crave guarantees. Guarantees that the people we love will stay, that our achievements will last, that the good times will never end. But life doesn't work that way. It is constantly shifting, like the seasons changing, or waves rising and falling on the shore. When we resist this natural flow, we create suffering for ourselves. Think about it. When we cling tightly to a relationship that's no longer healthy, or when we avoid opportunities because they disrupt our comfort, we aren't protecting ourselves. We're making life harder. The Buddha showed us a different way, to let go, to flow with change rather than fight against it. So how can we learn to embrace impermanence in our daily lives? One way is to start noticing it. Look around you. The leaves on a tree sway in the wind. The sunlight shifts across your room. Even your breath, coming in and out, is a constant reminder that nothing stays the same. By observing these small changes, you can begin to see impermanence not as a threat, but as a natural part of life. Another way to practice is to let go of clinging. For example, instead of holding on tightly to a specific outcome, focus on your efforts. Instead of fearing the end of something, cherish it while it lasts. Gratitude can transform how we experience life's fleeting moments, whether it's a laugh with a friend, the warmth of the sun, or the quiet peace of a morning. And finally, remember this: emotions, including fear, are temporary too. They come and go, like clouds passing through the sky. When fear arises, remind yourself, this will pass. Just that small shift in perspective can bring a sense of calm. Embracing impermanence doesn't mean giving up on life. It means appreciating it even more deeply. When we stop clinging to what we can't hold on to, we create space for freedom, peace, and joy. So the next time fear of change grips you, remember the grieving mother and the mustard seed. The lesson she learned can guide us all. Life is a river, always flowing, always moving forward. And while you can't stop its current, you can choose to flow with it, finding peace in its endless movement. Let's continue this journey together as we uncover the next lesson from the Buddha, a lesson on mindfulness, and how it can help us calm our fears and find strength in the present moment. Lesson 3. Cultivating mindfulness. Let me ask you a simple but profound question. Where does fear live? Does it exist in this very moment? Or does it come from somewhere else? The truth is, fear doesn't live in the present. Fear thrives when we dwell on the past, caught up in regret, or when we leap into the future, worrying about what might happen. But in this moment, right here and now, fear has no power. And this is why mindfulness is such a powerful tool. It brings us back to the present, where peace resides. Picture yourself standing on a beach, watching waves crash onto the shore. Each wave represents a thought. Some are gentle and calming, others are turbulent and overwhelming. Without mindfulness, we're pulled into the ocean, tossed and turned by the storm of emotions. But with mindfulness, we remain on the shore, calmly observing the waves as they rise and fall. This is the heart of mindfulness, staying present, fully aware of your thoughts and feelings, without letting them consume you. The Buddha often taught that mindfulness is the path to freedom from suffering. When we anchor ourselves in the present, we create space between ourselves and our fears. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can respond with clarity and calm. You might wonder why fear pulls us away from the present. Fear lives in two places. First, in the past, where it replays memories of mistakes, missed opportunities, or painful experiences. And second, in the future, where it whispers, "What if?" and paints vivid pictures of worst-case scenarios. Think back to the last time you felt overwhelmed by fear. Were you focused on this moment? Or were you imagining something that hadn't even happened yet? The present moment is almost always safe. It's our thoughts about the past and future that create fear. Mindfulness teaches us how to break free from this cycle. It starts with something as simple as your breath. Take a moment, close your eyes, and inhale deeply. Feel the air filling your lungs. Now exhale slowly, feeling your body relax. This simple act anchors you to the present, reminding you that this is the only moment that truly exists. The Buddha often compared our thoughts to clouds in the sky. They drift in and out of our minds, ever-changing, never permanent. By observing these thoughts without judgment, we can let them pass without becoming attached to them. Fear may arise, but it no longer controls us. Another way to practice mindfulness is through grounding. When fear creeps in, pause and ask yourself, what do I see? What do I hear? What do I feel? Focusing on your immediate surroundings brings your attention back to the present, helping you step out of the storm of fear. Incorporating mindfulness into your daily life doesn't require hours of meditation. You can start small. For example, when you eat, take a moment to truly taste your food. Notice the flavors, the textures, the way it feels. When you're walking, feel the ground beneath your feet and listen to the sounds around you. These simple moments of awareness train your mind to stay present, even when fear tries to pull you away. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're preparing for an important meeting or a difficult conversation. Fear begins to creep in, whispering, "What if I fail? What if they judge me?" Instead of letting these thoughts spiral, pause, take a deep breath and remind yourself, right now, I am safe. Right now, I am prepared. The future hasn't happened yet, and I will face it one moment at a time. Mindfulness doesn't erase fear, but it transforms how we relate to it. It reminds us that fear is just a thought, fleeting and impermanent. By staying present, we can see fear for what it is, a wave on the ocean, rising and falling, never lasting forever. The Buddha once said, "You cannot stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." This wisdom captures the power of mindfulness. Life will always bring challenges and uncertainties, but with mindfulness, we don't have to be swept away. We can stand firmly in the present, observing the waves and choosing how to respond. So the next time fear arises, take a deep breath. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Listen to the sounds around you. Remind yourself that in this moment, you are safe. And from this place of calm, take your next step with clarity and courage. As we move forward, let's explore another transformative teaching from the Buddha: how letting go of attachment can help us overcome fear and discover true peace. Stay with me, because this next lesson holds the key to a deeper sense of freedom. Lesson 4. Letting go of attachment. Have you ever asked yourself why we fear losing the things we hold dear? Whether it's a relationship, a treasured possession, or a dream, we often feel as though our happiness depends on keeping them close. This fear of loss is deeply rooted in our tendency to cling. The Buddha taught that this clinging, this attachment, is the source of much of our suffering, and the tighter we hold on, the more fear grows in our hearts. To understand this, let's look at a simple but profound analogy. Imagine holding a handful of sand. If you squeeze it tightly, the sand begins to slip through your fingers, leaving you with less and less. But if you let it rest gently in your palm, the sand stays with you, undisturbed. Life is like that sand. The more we cling to people, possessions, or outcomes, the more we suffer when things inevitably change. But when we learn to let go, we open ourselves to freedom and peace. Now, you might wonder, why do we cling in the first place? The answer lies in our desire for stability in a world that is constantly changing. We crave guarantees. Guarantees that the people we love will always stay with us, that our successes will last forever, and that life will remain the same. But as the Buddha taught, life is like a river, always flowing, always moving forward. When we base our happiness on things we cannot control, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Think about a time in your life when you held on too tightly to something. Maybe it was a relationship that changed, a job that ended, or a dream that didn't come true. The more you resisted, the harder it became, didn't it? This is the nature of attachment. It keeps us stuck in a cycle of fear and suffering. The Buddha offered us a different way to live. He taught that true freedom doesn't come from holding on. It comes from letting go. Now, this doesn't mean we stop caring or stop loving. It means we learn to appreciate life without trying to control it. Imagine planting a seed in your garden. You water it, nurture it, and give it sunlight. But you cannot control whether it grows or bears fruit. What you can control is your effort and your intention. Letting go is like this. It allows us to focus on what we can do, without becoming attached to the outcome. When fear arises, it's often a sign that we are clinging to something. In those moments, pause and ask yourself, what am I holding on to? And what would happen if I let go? Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing the need to control everything and trusting in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. So how do we begin the practice of letting go? It starts with recognizing the source of your fear. When you feel afraid, take a moment to reflect. What are you afraid of losing? Acknowledge that attachment and how it might be fueling your fear. This simple awareness is often the first step toward change. Next, shift your focus. Instead of clinging to specific outcomes, focus on your efforts. For example, if you're working toward a goal, give it your best, but release the need for a specific result. If you love someone, cherish them deeply, but remind yourself that your happiness doesn't depend solely on their presence. Another powerful practice is gratitude. When we focus on what we already have, it becomes easier to let go of the fear of losing it. Gratitude helps us move from fear of scarcity to appreciation of abundance. Take a moment each day to reflect on what you're grateful for. It could be something as simple as a kind word from a friend, or the warmth of the sun on your skin. And finally, trust in the flow of life. Letting go is an act of trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the people around you, and trust in the natural rhythm of life. This trust isn't about blind faith. It's about recognizing the resilience you've built through your experiences. When we let go of attachment, we free ourselves from fear. We come to realize that our happiness doesn't depend on what we hold on to, but on the space we create when we release it. Letting go doesn't mean we care less. It means we trust more. We trust in life, in ourselves, and in the ever-changing nature of the world. So, The next time fear of loss grips you, think of the handful of sand. Open your hand and let life flow freely. In this act of letting go, you'll discover a deep and unshakable peace. As we continue this journey, let's explore how life's challenges can actually be opportunities for growth. In the next lesson, we'll uncover how fear can guide us toward becoming our greatest selves. Stay with me, because the transformation is just beginning. Lesson 5. Turning challenges into opportunities for growth. Have you ever wondered if fear could be more than just an obstacle? What if fear was actually a guide, pointing you toward the places in life where your greatest growth can happen? The Buddha taught us a powerful truth. Challenges are not punishments. Instead, they are lessons. They are opportunities for transformation, moments where we can discover strengths we never knew we had. Let me take you on a journey. Imagine standing at the edge of a dense forest. The path ahead is dark and uncertain. Fear whispers in your ear. Turn back. Stay where it's safe. But deep within, you know, stepping forward, moving through the unknown, is the only way to grow. This is how challenges appear in our lives. They may seem daunting at first, but they hold the potential to change us in ways we can't yet imagine. The Buddha reminded us that life is not about avoiding difficulties. It's through these challenges that we evolve, learn, and uncover our inner resilience. Think about the last time you faced a situation that scared you. Maybe it was starting something new, moving out of your comfort zone, or taking a risk you weren't sure you were ready for. At first, the fear might have felt overwhelming, but looking back now, wasn't that experience a turning point? Didn't it teach you something valuable about who you are? Fear often shows up when we're on the brink of growth. It signals that we're stepping beyond what's familiar. And while it might feel uncomfortable, it's also an invitation, a call to embrace the unknown and expand what we believe is possible. When fear arises, we can shift the way we view it. Instead of treating fear as an enemy, we can see it as a teacher. The next time you feel afraid, pause and ask yourself, what is this fear trying to show me? What is the lesson hidden within this challenge? Often, fear points us to the areas in our lives where we need to grow, where we need to adapt, or let go of limiting beliefs. By approaching fear with curiosity instead of resistance, we transform it from a barrier into a bridge. The Buddha taught that challenges in life are not random. They are opportunities for growth. They reveal to us where we can stretch ourselves, where we can heal, and where we can find new strength. Let's talk about how to approach these challenges. First, when fear arises, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what is this fear teaching me? This act of reflection helps you shift your mindset from resistance to curiosity. Next, break the challenge into smaller steps. Often, challenges feel overwhelming because we see them as one enormous obstacle. By breaking it down into manageable actions, you can focus on what you can do right now. Each small step forward builds your confidence. And don't forget to celebrate your progress. Every small victory, every step you take, deserves recognition. These moments remind you of your resilience and your ability to keep going. The Buddha often used the image of a lotus flower to teach us about growth. The lotus grows in muddy water, yet it rises above the surface to bloom in beauty and purity. This image is a reminder. Even in life's darkest moments, there is potential for growth and transformation. Just as the mud nourishes the lotus, challenges nourish our growth. When you face difficulties, remember the lotus. Trust that the struggle you're experiencing is shaping you, helping you rise above and bloom into your full potential. Fear is not a barrier. It's a guide. It shows us where to grow, where to heal, and where to find our strength. So the next time fear whispers in your ear, don't turn away. Pause and ask, what is this teaching me? How can I grow from this? By embracing challenges, you turn fear into courage and uncertainty into wisdom. As we move forward together, let's dive into the final lesson, a lesson about patience and how it can help us stay grounded, even in the face of fear. Stay with me, because this lesson ties everything together and brings us closer to lasting peace. Lesson 6. Cultivating patience. Let me ask you this. How do you feel when you're stuck waiting? In a world that moves faster than ever, Patience can feel like a lost art. We're wired to crave instant results and quick solutions. But when life doesn't go as planned, impatience takes hold. The unknown becomes unbearable, and fear creeps in, whispering doubts and worst-case scenarios. The Buddha taught that patience is not weakness. It's a powerful form of inner strength. He described patience as the antidote to fear and frustration, a way to stay grounded when life feels uncertain. Imagine planting a tree. You water the seed. You nurture the soil and care for it. But you can't make it grow faster. Growth takes time, and trying to rush it only creates stress. In the same way, life unfolds at its own pace. Learning to trust that process is the essence of patience. Think back to a time when you were waiting for something important, a job interview result, a major decision, or a moment that could change everything. How did your mind respond? Did it spiral into what-if scenarios? Did it race with doubts? This is what impatience does. It magnifies fear and makes the waiting feel unbearable. But the Buddha reminds us, patience transforms this discomfort into wisdom. It allows us to sit with uncertainty, knowing that answers will come in their own time. When fear arises, patience gives us the tools to pause and breathe. It reminds us that we don't need to resolve everything right now. The present moment is enough. By choosing patience, we learn to trust in life's natural rhythm and find peace in its flow. Practicing patience doesn't mean doing nothing. It means acting with intention and trusting the process. For example, imagine you're facing a challenge, and you feel the urge to fix it immediately. Instead of rushing, pause and ask yourself, what can I do in this moment? What is within my control? Patience helps us focus on what we can do now, while letting go of what we can't control. The Buddha often compared patience to the roots of a tree. These roots grow deep, silently strengthening the tree, even though we can't see the progress happening underground. In the same way, patience allows us to build inner strength quietly, even when it feels like nothing is changing. Over time, this strength becomes the foundation for facing life's storms with grace. Let's explore how to bring patience into your daily life. First, start by acknowledging your impatience when it arises. Instead of judging yourself, simply notice it. I'm feeling impatient right now. This act of awareness is the first step toward change. Next, practice slowing down. When you're stuck in traffic or waiting in line, use that time to take a few deep breaths. Shift your focus from the frustration of waiting to the opportunity to be present. Patience grows when we learn to embrace small moments of stillness. Another way to cultivate patience is by setting realistic expectations. Remind yourself that growth, healing, and change all take time, just as you wouldn't expect a tree to bear fruit the day after planting it. Don't rush your own process. Trust that with consistent effort, progress will come. Finally, use patience as a tool for self-compassion. When you make a mistake or face setbacks, resist the urge to criticize yourself. Instead, treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend. Remind yourself, I am doing the best I can, and that's enough. Patience is not passive. It's an active form of trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, and trust in life's ability to unfold as it should. The Buddha taught that fear fades when we cultivate this trust. Patience allows us to face challenges calmly, knowing that storms will pass, seeds will grow, and answers will appear in their own time. When impatience fuels your fear, think of the tree. Its roots grow deep in silence, unseen, before it stretches toward the sky. Trust that your efforts, your journey, and your struggles are all part of a greater process. Patience reminds us that life's beauty lies in its gradual unfolding. So, the next time you find yourself gripped by fear or frustration, pause and take a breath. Ask yourself, what can I do right now? What can I let go of? In that moment of stillness, you'll find the strength to wait with faith, knowing that every step forward, no matter how small, is leading you toward growth. As we close this journey, remember the wisdom of patience. It's not about waiting. It's about waiting with intention and trust. It's about finding peace in the process and knowing that life's challenges are shaping you into the person you are meant to be. As we come to the end of this journey together, let's pause and reflect on the wisdom we've uncovered. Fear, while uncomfortable, is not something we need to run from. It's a natural part of life, and when we approach it with understanding, it transforms into a guide, a teacher that helps us grow. Through the teachings of the Buddha, we've learned that fear is often rooted in illusion and misunderstanding. By bringing awareness to it, we can see fear for what it truly is, a fleeting thought, not an unchangeable truth. We've explored how mindfulness anchors us in the present, where fear loses its grip. We've seen how embracing impermanence allows us to let go of control, freeing us from unnecessary suffering. And we've learned that patience gives us the strength to navigate uncertainty with trust and calm. Each challenge, each moment of fear, is an opportunity, a chance to stretch beyond our limits and uncover a deeper strength within ourselves. Fear isn't here to stop us. It's here to guide us toward growth. Now, as you reflect on everything we've explored, I invite you to carry these lessons forward. The next time fear arises, take a deep breath and pause. Ask yourself, what is this fear trying to teach me? How can I use this moment to grow? Remember, fear is not a permanent resident in your life. It's just a visitor, passing through like a wave on the ocean. And just as the waves rise and fall, so too will your fears come and go. These teachings are not just ideas. They are tools you can use every day. When fear pulls you into the past or the future, use mindfulness to bring yourself back to the present. When life feels uncertain, practice patience and trust that everything is unfolding as it should. Let go of what you cannot control and embrace the flow of life with an open heart. And most importantly, view every challenge as an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. The Buddha once said, "You are not the storm. You are the calm awareness observing it." These words remind us that peace is always within reach. It's not about avoiding life's storms, but learning to navigate them with courage and clarity. So, as you move forward, remember this: fear does not define you. It is simply a guide, showing you where growth is waiting. You already have the strength within you to face anything that comes your way. Trust yourself, trust the journey, and take each step forward with intention and courage. Thank you for sharing this time with me, and for joining me on this exploration of Buddhist wisdom. If these lessons have resonated with you, I encourage you to share them with someone who might need them. Let's continue to learn, grow, and rise above fear together.